Okay, so this is like the fifth or sixth time that I'm trying to record this video, so hopefully it works out. We're going to take a look at a finder.com.au article talking about the best performing ETFs in Australia in 2021. Just finding the hotkey there to switch over the screens. We can see here Kylie Purcell and team wrote this article. What's in the guide here is 10 best performing ETFs over the 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year period, how to start investing, different types of ETFs, etc. So a lot of hyperlinks, a lot of education here. So if you're interested in this type of asset class, security, way to trade the markets from a very diversified point of view, you can definitely take a look at that. And so they've got some hot links here to some of the different ETFs, beta shares, ETFs, that stands for ETF securities. You can take a look at those, or you can go directly to the tables here. So these are filterable, so you can click on these to change how they're ranked. They're talking about here what has performed best over a 1 year period. So we can see the ticker code, the type of equity it is, the fund name, what its fee is, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year return. So a nice, easy to look at table that gives you a lot of good information there. So some of these funds haven't traded on a 3 year basis, so you're not going to get much for ACDC, LNAS, or FANG. But for GGUS, it's been there over that 3 year period, so you're going to be able to get that kind of information there. So definitely take a look at that. They've got the other tables here as well. What I thought would be interesting is to take a look at what does ETFtracker see for this this sort of data. So let's re-rank that back to where we were. We can see GGUS, ACDC here. So if we go to ETFtracker, when you go to the page, there's the ETFtracker app that sits here. There's a couple of other things that you can do. We've got a new forum because there's going to be members type sections, still for free, but we definitely wanted to put more value add for the people that subscribe to the channel. So you can view the app again in the Our Apps section. There's a couple of other applications on holdings analysis and stuff there, but the main is the ETFtracker app. I like to look at it in full screen mode. So you can click on that. You can see it's done by Power BI. We use a lot of that for our other work. You land on this dashboard here, and this is for June 2021. We group things by these different categories as well. And we've got some other ways to look at the data. You can look at what were the net inflows over time, and currently you can look at what the funds under management has been over time and what the latest numbers are. So you can see equities, Australia and global, ex Asia and ex emerging markets. Those other global areas are the ones that have done the most in terms of funds under management. So a lot of money going into them there. Now, there's other areas on the app, and you can click on these side menus to see what's in there. If you are looking at that and you go, okay, transactions, that's not really what I'm after. You can click on anywhere on the page where it's a faded background here, or you can click on the menu and it just retracts that. What we're going to do is take a look at the comparisons here. And in this case, we can choose one group or single ETF here on this side and another group or a single ETF on that side. Let's take a look at what Finder had. So they had GGUS and ACDC, right? So one's beta shares, one's ETF securities. So we can click on the filter buttons here on the side and we can type in, so we want GGUS, okay? You can type in the name or you can type in the ticker. So if we started searching geared US equity, we'd also find this, but we can also search the ticker, GGUS, and we can see the information there. So let's just take a look at that over the last 2 years, so back to January 2020. And so that's the last 18 months there. So let's take a look at what was the other one. That was ACDC. So I can either type it, or you could see it was one of the first ones there when you scroll. So let's make sure we compare that on the same period, so 18 months, and you can see that there in the check. So GGUS, ACDC, similar returns in terms of performance, although ACDC, a lot of their spike up was due to a really well performing month of November. But we can see, yeah, they're fairly similar there. What does it look like in terms of size? So total FUM is 77.6 million for that one. 245 million for ACDC. So this one is bigger, and you can see that increase gradually. Nice steady level of growth there. Been a bit. It has been growing for GGUS, but it's definitely had some months where no net inflows have been coming in, or there's been net outflows. Not much in net outflows for these guys here. It's mostly been inflows. And then in terms of transactions, we look at number of trades and transaction value. So that's been fairly steady. It was higher in some parts, especially in March, because there was this big spike up as a lot of retail investors and other investors went into not just the ETF markets, but markets in general. And we can also see that transaction kind of value has increased as well over here for these guys. So they average about 1,500, just under 1,500 trades per month. Over here, it's about 4,500 trades per month. So you can see that information there. And if you want to take a look at some of the other menus, because in the area one we've selected GGUS, as we go to say performance 1 month versus 1 year, we'll see that GGUS has actually been selected. So you just need to unselect that. So you can see here that it would be GGUS selected there, but if you weren't sure, you can just hover over and you can clear the selection there. So if we minimize that, we can see that all of the ETFs, this is what the performance has been like over the various periods. If we click on just that month there for June, we can see what has done well and what hasn't over that just that 1 month. Okay, so as of June, the 1 year returns versus 1 month returns, we saw LNAS is doing quite well there. If you hover over that, you can see a bit of a description. And if you right click on that, you can drill through and see the individual page. Now, because I selected just June, it's just going to show 1 bar here for these. What you want to do is just clear that selection and right click on it now that you've not actually just filtered down to June, because it holds that context as you go across the app. So now I can see the last 18 months going back to, well, in this case, we're looking at July 2020. So, okay, so we've just gone back to the last, I think this is when they started this one here. So, yeah, so we're going back to January 2020 for the whole thing, but some ETFs, even though it's got that context, LNAS did not start until July last year, so that was a new ETF. But as I said, you can see a description here, some high-level metrics just in particular for this ETF securities ETF, and then if you want to take a look at the provider page, you can do that by clicking on that link. So they've got a disclaimer here. You read that obviously and accept if it applies, all good. You can see some further information here. But yeah, all of that kind of stuff you can do from using, finder.com.au for some analysis there. They go further down into where you can trade these ETFs. But then if you use ETFtracker, you get a little bit more information and we kind of group it all together, nice and easy for you to utilize. Hopefully we do make that easy for you. And if you want more information on ETFtracker or ETFs in general, then make sure you follow, like and subscribe to these videos, or go to ETFtracker.com.au and you can sign up to the forum and see some further discussions about ETFs in the Australian market. And I'm Mark, and thanks very much. Happy investing.